The theme of awakening is especially relevant to me today. I had a rough and long week, and uh, Mike and Adrian have a very comfortable bed. And so this morning I set my alarm for 4:45. I don't remember it at all. At 6 o'clock, I woke up. The alarm had given up by then. But I almost slept through the revolution. Awakening to wokeness. If you had asked me a few years ago if I was woke, I might have responded by correcting your grammar. As I scratched my head, wondering why I'm being asked such an absurd question. Of course, I'm awake, standing upright with my eyes open. I would have responded this way because until recently, woke was not part of my vernacular. This was the case for most people, but not all people. Woke may be a recent addition to my vocabulary, but the term is not new. The word has a history that long predates TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, or X as it's apparently now called, or any other social media platform. Before hashtags dominated our conversations and social media feeds, the term woke existed, resonating within African American communities, serving as a beacon of awareness long before it entered mainstream discourse. The word woke carries with it echoes of the voices from the past, whispers of resistance, and cries for justice that have reverberated through the corridors of time. In the early 20th century, Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican political leader and activist, sounded the call to wake up, Ethiopia, wake up, Africa, urging fellow Africans and members of the African diaspora to shake off the shackles of oppression and reclaim their dignity and pride. In 1938, Huddie Ledbetter, better known as Leadbelly, penned a powerful song that advised listeners to stay woke, inspired by the grave injustice experienced by the Scottsboro Boys, a group of 9 African-American teenagers falsely accused of rape in Alabama. Leadbelly's lyrics served as a rallying cry for vigilance in the face of systemic injustice. The year 1940 saw the emergence of another seminal moment in the history of the word woke. During the labor struggles of the time, mine workers issued a bold statement: "We were asleep, but we will stay woke from now on." Their declaration embodying the spirit of awakening to the injustices of the world and standing in solidarity for fair wages and working conditions. Fast forward to 1962, when William Melvin Kelly penned an essay titled, "If You're Woke, You Dig It," which was published in the New York Times. In this essay, Kelly explored the concept of being woke as a state of heightened awareness and consciousness, particularly in relation to issues of race and social justice. With the rise of social media, this word that was coined and used by the African American community as a call to watchfulness was adopted by the mainstream. Rather quickly, the word began to be used widely. I say the term used, but it would really be more accurate to say it is misused widely. Sadly, today, when the word woke is used, it's often with no understanding of the word's historical context. Even more perplexing is that the word is often used with no understanding of its meaning at all. Woke is wielded as a pejorative without clear definition or delineation. It has become a rhetorical device employed to disparage anything perceived as threatening to traditional power structures or cultural norms. As linguist John McWhorter astutely observed, woke has become a catch-all for changes in the American left that some people find illegitimate and others do not. And what's illegitimate about it, it seems, is often unclear. Today, woke is a weaponized word in the culture wars that have come to dominate our political and social discourse. Yeah. This is nothing new. If you're anything like me, you probably felt a sense of deja vu the first time you heard the word woke being used in this manner. Before woke entered the mainstream lexicon, similar ideas were often dismissed under the banner of political correctness, a term weaponized to undermine efforts toward inclusivity and social justice. It became a shorthand for anything deemed too liberal or progressive, an umbrella term to discredit valid concerns about systemic injustices and marginalized voices. Similarly, woke has been co-opted to diminish the legitimacy of social justice initiatives. It's no coincidence that just a few years back, being woke suddenly took on a negative connotation. After the nation witnessed the tragic death of George Floyd, there was widespread outrage. Witnessing the lynching of a Black man by a government agent was like a wake-up call for many dormant progressives, urging us to rise up and confront systemic racism. Even amidst a pandemic, people flooded the streets. We saw the dismantling of monuments glorifying racism, like Confederate statues being toppled. We cheered as Bree Newsom fearlessly scaled a flagpole at the South Carolina State House to remove a symbol of anti-Black oppression, and then witnessed lawmakers vote for its permanent removal. Lady Antebellum rebranded as Lady A, and the Dixie Chicks became simply the Chicks. Corporate America also responded to the Black Lives Matter movement and calls for racial justice. Companies pledged to diversify their workforce, donate to racial justice organizations, and review internal policies for racial bias. In response to demands for police reform, many cities and states implemented or proposed changes like banning chokeholds and neck restraints, providing de-escalation training, requiring body cameras for officers, and establishing civilian oversight boards. The movement also sparked conversations about systemic racism in education, prompting some districts to revise curricula to include more diverse perspectives and histories, and launching initiatives to recruit and retain more teachers of color.
Now we've got book
It was just when we seemed ready to confront the issues plaguing our nation that being woke suddenly became taboo, something to be avoided and resisted. So why the pushback against wokeness? Why do some people feel threatened by a concept they can't even seem to define? One clear reason is the discomfort that comes with acknowledging privilege and systemic inequality. Admitting that you benefit from structures that disadvantage others can be unsettling. As author and activist Roxane Gay puts it, it's about confronting the ways in which you have benefited from and perpetuated systems of power and privilege. It is uncomfortable work. The backlash against wokeness reflects a fear of losing cultural dominance. As society moves towards greater equity and inclusivity, those used to controlling mainstream narratives feel their influence slipping away. This fear of being displaced leads to resistance against change and the demonization of movements associated with social awakening. What does it really mean to be woke? We can spend all day talking about the misuse of the word by the Ron DeSantis's and Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world, but are we also guilty of its misuse? It seems to be a term that one side hurls as an insult and the other side wears as a badge of honor, but that neither truly understands its depth. Before we go about waving the banner of wokeness, we need to understand that when we speak of being woke, we're using a term that has specific historical context, a word that was birthed from pain and trauma. If we're going to call ourselves woke, I believe it is important that we make sure we are really awake. Have you ever thought you were awake, but you weren't? Have you had one of those dreams where you wake up, get out of bed, and begin your day by going to work or school, and then something really bizarre happens, like you realize you forgot to wear pants? Just as the situation becomes really embarrassingly surreal, you wake up again, this time for real, and breathe a sigh of relief, realizing you were still dreaming. Often, as progressives, we may believe we're woke when we are still sound asleep. If your wokeness is defined by bumper stickers and t-shirts, if being woke is about hashtags, TikToks, or Instagram posts, if being woke is about making sure everyone knows just how woke you are, if it is about putting the spotlight on you rather than the cause, if it is about hearing your self-talk rather than lifting up the voices of those who are marginalized and oppressed, you may proudly declare your wokeness. Your annoying right-wing relatives might even call you woke, but in reality, you are still in bed, wandering about aimlessly in a fantasy world without any pants on. Earlier, I referenced the 1938 song by Huddie Ledbetter. Referring to his song about the Scottsboro Boys and the everyday dangers experienced by Black Americans in the Deep South, Ledbetter stated, "I made this little song about down there. So I advise everybody, be a little careful. Best stay woke, keep their eyes open." Ledbetter's words call to mind a verse from the New Testament in which the Apostle Paul cautions us to be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary, the devil, walketh about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. In these words, the apostle urges his audience to be alert, to be watchful, as their adversary is on the prowl, moving throughout the village like a roaring lion seeking its prey. Let me tell you, if I lived in a time when homes couldn't keep wild animals out, knowing there was a lion on the prowl, sleep would be out of the question for me. When there's a lion on the loose, staying woke is your only option. Those who mock progressives for being too woke do so because their privilege allows them to do so. They aren't worried about the lions. They live in the gated neighborhood. Likewise, those whose wokeness is merely performative also do so out of privilege. When racism, xenophobia, sexism, homophobia, and transphobia don't impact your life, you're free to perform on social media while sleeping soundly. But for those who have seen the lion and who know the danger of the slumber, our only choice is to stay woke. As Unitarian Universalists, we tend to mock those who use woke as a pejorative, and I certainly understand the temptation to do so. It brings to mind a scene from the 1996 film of Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible. The girls in Salem accuse a disabled man of climbing to the second floor window. When the accused man points out the absurdity of their accusation, the girls all collapse simultaneously, falling to the floor. Amidst the chaos, Martha Corey, a no-nonsense kind of woman, begins to laugh out loud. When the judge questions her audacity in mocking these poor, afflicted girls, Martha responds, "What else are fools good for?" While Martha Corey's response or approach seems logical, in the very next scene, she finds her laughter fading as she becomes the target of accusations, finds herself jailed, and ultimately sentenced to death for a crime she never committed. Fools stop being funny when their foolishness becomes dangerous. As much as I would love to slap my knee and laugh until it hurts at the ridiculous rhetoric espoused by these anti-woke warriors, when fools have the power to incite violence, it stops being funny. When fools make the life of a transgender person so miserable that suicide seems like the only solution, the foolishness isn't funny anymore. Staying woke is not a mere slogan. It is not a trend. Despite what the governor of Florida says, it is not a mind virus. It is a serious matter. It is a lifeline for those in the path of the prowling lions of injustice. In closing, I leave you with the words of author D.L. Lewis. Woke is not merely a state of awareness. It is a force that dismantles the walls of ignorance and complacency. It is the unwavering commitment to truth, justice, and equality, igniting a flame within the hearts of those who seek a better world. To be woke is to rise above the shadows of indifference and confront the uncomfortable realities that permeate our society. It is to acknowledge the deep-rooted biases, systemic injustices, and the pervasive discrimination that persistently plague our communities. Woke is the courage to challenge the status quo, to question the narratives that uphold oppression, and to demand accountability from those who hold power. It is the unwavering belief that every voice matters, regardless of race, gender, or social standing. Woke is the realization that progress requires action, not just words. It is the recognition that the fight for justice extends beyond hashtags and viral trends. It is a constant pursuit of education, empathy, and the willingness to stand up for what is right, even in the face of adversity. Woke is a movement that refuses to be silenced. It is the collective power of individuals coming together to amplify marginalized voices, to challenge systems that perpetuate inequality, and to build a future where everyone has equal opportunity to thrive. Being woke is not an endpoint. It is a lifelong journey. It is the commitment to unlearn and relearn, to listen and understand, and to continuously evolve in the pursuit of a more inclusive and equitable world. So let us embrace our wokeness, not as a trend or a buzzword, but as a guiding principle within our lives. Let us use our awareness to foster meaningful change, to uplift the marginalized, and to build bridges where there were once divides. For in our collective awakening lies the power to reshape the world, to create a future where justice, compassion, and equality prevail. Let us be woke. Let us be bold. And let us be the catalyst of a brighter tomorrow. Amen, and may it be so.
Amen.
Now may we
Amen, and
continue
let
to
it be
reflect
so.
as we listen to Here Comes
Very
the Sun.
typical.